Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears up to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world. And what is going on in the state of Michigan? This story, I hope my listeners pay particular interest in and pay attention to, because this is another sad story about a doctor who was diagnosing patients with cancer, and they did not have cancer, and he proceeded on treating them with chemotherapy, radiation, and all kinds of high doses of medical medicines that these individuals did not even need. And even he had one gentleman that was diagnosed with testicular cancer that had one of his testicles removed. What in the world is going on with many of our professionals today? Mental illness is a real thing. Greed, arrogance, and many of our professional folks, our doctors, our lawyers, our judges, that I've done many stories on, are like really losing their minds, and it's all at the cost of the taxpayer, and in this particular situation, of innocent patients. So let's get into this one. Please listen to this. It's a cautionary tale, and I tell you all the time, the unbelievable will become the believable, and the unseen will be seen. Patients give horror stories as cancer doctor from Michigan gets 45 years in prison. A Detroit area doctor who authorities say gave cancer treatment drugs to patients who did not need them, including some who didn't actually even have cancer, was sentenced on Friday to 45 years in prison. Dr. Farid Fatah, 50, pleaded guilty in September to giving cancer treatments to misdiagnosed patients, telling some of them they had terminal blood cancer called multiple myeloma. He pleaded guilty to 13 counts of Medicare fraud, 1 count of conspiracy to pay or receive kickbacks, and 2 counts of money laundering. Federal prosecutors called him the most egregious fraudster in the history of this country. To Dr. Fatah, they said patients were not people. They were profit centers. How many times have we heard that between doctors, insurance companies, and pharmaceutical companies? Dr. Fatah forfeited, now listen to this, $17.6 million that he collected from Medicare and private insurance companies. Some 553 patients received medically unnecessary infusions or injections, prosecutors said. The hematologist-oncologist gave an emotional apology in court, saying he was ashamed of his actions. He said, "I violated the Hippocratic Oath and violated the trust of my patients," Dr. Fatah said. According to CNN affiliate WDIV, "I don't know how I can heal the wound. I don't know how to express the sorrow and the shame," he said. But to the dozens of Fatah's victims who filed into U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Michigan throughout the week to watch his sentencing, his apology doesn't matter. Many will live with the effects of this, at times, unnecessary treatments for the rest of their lives. As Geraldine Parkin, the wife of one former patient, said in court, many were tortured until their last breaths. So let's talk about how he treated them, but they weren't sick. Robert Sobere went to Dr. Fatah and was given chemotherapy treatments for 2.5 years, but he never had cancer. "It just gets to me," Sobere said. "What was the motivation? Why? Why me? I don't know what I did I don't know what did I ever do to him. The chemotherapy treatments were painful and made him physically sick, as we all know. If you've had a loved one who's had cancer, I lost my mother the day before my 13th birthday to cancer. They were so strong, the chemotherapy was so strong that his teeth fell out and his jaw started to change shape. Years after finding out he didn't have cancer, he has lost all but one of his teeth. With all the bills piling up, I can't afford to get new teeth, Sobere said. I would like to eat a good meal again someday, like salad. I used to love eating salad. I can't eat that anymore. A lot of things I love, I can't eat anymore. Patty Hester went to Dr. Fata in 2010 after being recommended by another doctor. Her white blood cell count was low, and Fata was a renowned hematologist and oncologist. He was, according to the webpage and according to the flyers, he's a world-renowned doctor, Hester said. When you went in his office, he was top doc. Hester, who worked in an emergency room at the time, was devastated when Fata told her she had myelodysplastic syndrome, MDS. He said, you need to start on chemo like immediately, Hester recalled. She was in disbelief, and after debating with Fata, he instead put her on iron treatments and eventually blood plasma treatments. She was still taking those pricey plasma treatments the day co-workers made her come to the TV and see the news that her doctor had been arrested. How did he take advantage of the trust of these patients? Which whenever we go, two of your most important professions where people need you, or three, would be your doctor, your psychologist, your therapist, and of course your lawyer. You are putting your lives in their hands to get them to help you. Some of Fata's patients did have various forms of cancer. Chris Sneary faced Dr. Fata for the first time since his former doctor's arrest on Tuesday as he read his victim impact statement in court. He turned to glance at Fata, took a deep breath, and read his story. Sneary came to Fata to be treated for testicular cancer from 2010 to 2013. He had 40 days of chemotherapy, 14 days of hydration therapy, and dozens of other treatments and procedures. He said, I gave full and total trust to this man to get me and my family through this journey. I was about to begin. Sneary discovered after Fata's arrest that he had been given gross overtreatment, more expensive and harsh chemotherapy than was necessary. And even worse, he had a testicle removed that was medically unnecessary. You talk about egregiousness and arrogance to the fullest. Dr. Fata took full advantage of my trust in him, my fear of dying, and most of all, my top-of-the-line health insurance, Sneary said, at times fighting back tears in court. And one patient who did not have cancer spoke out in court posthumously. Donald Crabtree's wife, Marietta, read a statement he wrote back in December last year before he passed away. He said, none of the tumors were helped. They increased in number, they increased in size, Crabtree read in court. I believe Dr. Fata knowingly and purposefully treated me for the wrong cancer and gave me the wrong chemotherapy. Crabtree said in his dying wish for Dr. Fata to spend the rest of his life in prison. How did Mr. Crabtree know in the deep part of his gut that he was being mistreated? Fata apologizes to his patients. Before being sentenced, Dr. Fata turned to face those who were at his sentencing, and he apologized. He said the quest for power is self-destructive. He said they came to me seeking compassion and care, and I failed. Yes, I failed. Now, some of his former patients have a chance to file claims and possibly be awarded some of the funds that he collected from Medicare and insurance companies. Dr. Fada is expected to serve at least 34 years of his sentence, possibly at a low security prison in Michigan. What an incredible, sad story. As we get older, unfortunately, some young people, but definitely as we get older, health issues can become a premium, not only on you physically, but also on you financially. I'm in my mid-50s, and of course, I don't feel the same as I did when I was 25. I am having some health issues that I'm dealing with right now. So you want to go to the experts in helping and healing, whether it's physically or mentally, and what else do you have but to go on their word? If someone says you have cancer, if a doctor says you have cancer, as I said, my mother died of cancer. My dad got diagnosed with esophageal cancer 5 or 6 years ago. And you just make the assumption and a presumption that the doctors are telling you the truth. But unfortunately, we have many individuals, not just young people, but older people, professionals, doctors, lawyers, school superintendents, principals, who are chasing the bag by any means necessary. And this definitely is a story of a guy who lied, who was arrogant, who was greedy, and took any measure to profit off of his lies and the mistreatment and diagnosis of his patients. How do you diagnose somebody with cancer who doesn't have it and then proceed on giving them radiation, chemotherapy, these high doses of medicines, and in many times, chemotherapy and radiation will kill you faster than your diagnosis or your cancer, if you have it. And in this instance, over 553 patients were misdiagnosed and were treated with cancer drugs, chemotherapy, and radiation when they did not need it whatsoever. This was a doctor who was demonstrating a death wish upon people, and he did not see them as people, but he saw them as profit. What a sad story. Thankfully, this doctor had people's lives in his hands, and he was making a very dangerous and heartless decision to misdiagnose and mistreat these individuals. What a sad case. Let's get these rotten apples out of here, whether it's bad police officers, bad doctors, bad lawyers, bad judges who are corruptible and are crossing the criminal line. This is a sad story. Tell me what you think about this doctor who was mistreating, misdiagnosing people with cancer who did not have cancer, and then giving them large doses of chemotherapy and radiation, and some of those patients died at his hands. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth.